Hey guys, it's been a while since I've sent out a video to the youth, middle and high school folks from OCC. Seems like a pretty good time to go ahead and do another one of those after a few weeks of not, but rather instead doing in person and Zoom and other things. So I'm putting this together this morning. And then, lo and behold, some breaking news happens in the world of OCC. And the breaking news kind of connects in a pretty natural way with what I was going to say anyway on this video. So I'll give it all to you here in the next few minutes, and I'll try to keep this real short today, but you'll want to stay tuned and stay with me here. So we want to talk today just a little bit about the idea of this term. You may have heard it before. Sometimes adults talk about a time horizon. What the heck does that mean? Time horizon. It really just is a fancy kind of eloquent sounding way of describing whether you're thinking about something in the short term or the long term. Are you kind of focusing on the here and now or on what's happening today and tomorrow and that's it? Or are you thinking about next week, next month, next year, maybe your long-term plans going into adulthood or whatever? Are you short term, medium term, long term? What's your time horizon as you think or as you look into the future? How far do you look? Just a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, months, years, decades? What's your time horizon? Now, sometimes time horizon gets used in the world of finance and investments. And one of the most famous and successful investors of all time is a guy by the name of Warren Buffett. He's worth an estimated 80 billion, that's with a B, folks, billion dollars. So he's not quite up there with Jeff Bezos of Amazon. I'm not sure if Buffett is all the way up to maybe Bill Gates range, but he's pretty high up there. He's one of the richest Americans alive today, and he's like 90 years old. One of his famous quotes when someone asked him, "Well, when you buy a stock, Warren, how long do you like to hold it? Like if you buy shares of Coca-Cola, do you hold it for a few days or a few weeks and then maybe the price of the stock goes up and you quick sell it and then maybe later the price goes down, you buy it again and you're in it, you're out of it, you flip it around and you try to make money that way?" And he said, "No, no, no. That's not how we do things." He said, and I quote here, "Our favorite holding period is forever." By that he meant that he tries to understand businesses really well, have a really high degree of confidence that the business that he's buying stock in is a really solid business, and then he just likes to hang on to the stock, ideally forever. Now, sometimes circumstances change and he does end up selling stock from time to time, but he tends to be a really long term holder of stocks. And he buys pretty simple, easy to understand businesses. Coca-Cola is one of them. He's also famously been a major investor in Dairy Queen, where you get the ice cream sundaes and the dilly bars. So he keeps it pretty simple, but he buys these stocks and he holds on for the long term. Now take a look at this chart. This kind of proves to you that Warren Buffett is his way of thinking on this is not really the most popular way of thinking. I mean, look at this. This is the holding period in terms of how long the average holder of stocks in the US on the New York Stock Exchange, how long does a typical person hold shares of a typical stock? And you can see way back in 1930 during the teeth of the Depression, it was only around a year or so. See at the beginning of the graph. By the 50s and 60s, it's up around 7 or 8 years. That's longer term, but look at the last 30 and especially the last 20 years. Now it's down to around a year again. In fact, the most recent data from 2020, back in around the summertime of this year, was that the average holding period is now 5.5 months. Okay, why am I bringing all this up? Well, it has to do, again, with whether we think about our own lives in the short term, excuse me, or the long term. Some of you totally get this from your own school life. Some of you, I bet, are, as I was at your age too, full disclosure, some of you, I bet, are champion procrastinators. Why bother studying for next week's test? Because that's next week. You can wait until the night before. Why bother starting the research paper that's due 2 weeks from now? Why not wait until just a few days away? Procrastinating, focusing on the here and now, what is important today and tomorrow, and not much further than that. Very short-term thinking, as opposed to Warren Buffett's much longer-term thinking. Is one right and one wrong? Or are they just different, with different pros and cons, different strengths and weaknesses in those two ways of thinking about time and the future? And what does this have to do with the times we're living in right now during a pandemic, and with some schools going to class in person and some online and Zoom, and what's going on at church with OCC activities? All right, we're coming to that. Let me show you a short little passage from the New Testament book of James. Here it is in the New RSV. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a town and spend a year there doing business and making money. Yet you do not even know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wishes, we will live and do this or that. Now, just to make it maybe a little bit clearer for you and for all of us in terms of modern language, let me share the exact same few sentences of Scripture to you, but this time in a different version of the Bible known as the Message. Here's what it says. And now I have a word for you who brashly announce, today, at the latest tomorrow, we're off to such and such a city for the year. We're going to start a business and make a lot of money. You don't know the first thing about tomorrow. You're nothing but a wisp of fog, catching a brief bit of sun before disappearing. Instead, make it a habit to say, if the Master, notice capital M as in God, if the Master wills it and we're still alive, we'll do this or that. Yeah, what is the appropriate time horizon? Far be it from me to tell you that you're right to be a procrastinator, because I know your teachers, your parents, probably others in your life are advising you, no, that's a bad idea. And in general, they're right. It's probably better to plan ahead and be well prepared for things, yes. But in terms of what you can really count on, this passage in James is reminding us all that the future is not guaranteed, that things could change radically. And look at how fast things changed around the middle of March of this year, when we went in a matter of just a couple days from basically life as normal to everything being disrupted because of the coronavirus. I mean, it was a fast and massive upheaval, disruption in our lives. Tumultuous, just changes in everything, from sports to school to work, transportation, the economy, everything changing in short order. Kind of like the passage says, you don't even know the first thing about tomorrow. Things could change. Be prepared, but always understand in the back of your mind things could change. Questions for you to ponder here today. First, what's your time horizon? In terms of school, extracurriculars, your friendships, your family life, even your future, say college or beyond, adulthood, whatever, jobs. Okay? Are you the kind of person that likes to plan ahead? That likes to think longer term? That's fine. That has its good sides and its downsides too. By the same token, maybe you're a very short-term thinker. You just like to deal with today and tomorrow. Maybe at the most this week, but you don't like to think ahead to next month or next quarter or next year. You don't really like to think that way or plan that far ahead. Well, that sort of way of thinking also has upsides and downsides. It's just good to kind of know what your natural way of thinking about time in the future is. Then second, how has your time horizon changed since this past March when the pandemic began disrupting what we think of as normal life? And then third, for your life right now, have you sorted out that which is more urgent versus that which is most important? You know, sometimes little stuff feels really urgent because it feels like it has to get done right now. And unfortunately, if all we do is focus on what is most urgent, meaning which deadline comes first, sometimes there's big, important things in our lives that don't get enough attention because those deadlines are further down the road, but they're more important than the little deadlines that are closer to where we are in time. Do you get what I mean? There's a difference between something being urgent, meaning got to get at it now, versus important. Maybe you've got a little more time, but the value or the benefit or the meaning or the significance of that thing is far greater. So it's important to kind of think in your minds about, for you in your life, what's urgent, but even of greater significance, what is most important, even if it's longer term. Okay, so what does this have to do? I promised I would loop this back around to what's going on with OCC. Well, here's breaking news. Chandra Larson, the wife of our senior minister, Jeff, has just tested positive for COVID-19. Now, Chandra, as you know, is not only Jeff's wife, but she's the mom of 3 kids, 1 in MP3, 2 in Joyous Journey. She's also a member of our Board of Christian Education. So, I mean, she wears a variety of hats. And obviously, that means that she and Jeff and the 3 kids, that all 5 Larsons right now are in some state of isolation/quarantine. And that means we're having to take some things that would have been in person and we're taking them online. We're moving them on up into the virtual world of cyberspace. So that's at least going to affect this Sunday, October 18th, and the following Sunday, October 25th. It is hoped that soon after October 25th, all the Larson family will have been tested and perhaps retested, and their status will be more clearly known, and hopefully they can come out of quarantine and things can kind of resume. But for the time being, what is the plan? Well, here it is. MP3 for the next 2 Sundays is going to be at 9 a.m., just the way it normally would be, except it's going to be on Zoom. Feel free, guys, to to show up. If your hair is all over the place, nobody cares. We will not judge. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to look nice. And assuming you're going to be tuning into Zoom in your own home, you don't even have to wear a mask because you're at home. So maybe that's a little bit of a benefit to being on Zoom versus being in Fellowship Hall. But please take note of that. Even though the newsletter and the Monday e-news said we are going to be meeting in person in Fellowship Hall, that is no longer true for this Sunday, the 25th, and the following Sunday, this Sunday, the 18th, and the following Sunday, the 25th. 18th and 25th are both virtual on Zoom. What about PF? Well, we are still going to have PF Zooms. That's Pilgrim Fellowship. That's on Wednesday, but we're only doing that on the first and the third Wednesdays of each calendar month. So we've got one more in October. That's the 21st. And then we'll do 2 in November, the first Wednesday of November and the third Wednesday of November. And at least tentatively, we'll plan to do it on the first Wednesday of December and also the third Wednesday of December. In terms of videos like what you're watching right now, where I just talk into the screen and you can watch on YouTube, those will probably only be coming out very occasionally, if at all. We're really not probably going to be leaning on those, at least not over the next couple of weeks. At least in the short to medium term, we're going to be relying mainly on Zoom. Okay, now keep in mind, things can change. That's kind of the point of that Bible passage, right? We don't even know what's coming down the pike tomorrow. If you had asked me about MP3 yesterday, I would have given you a different answer than I'm giving you today in light of Chandra's positive test for COVID-19. So things can change. Stay tuned, but this is where we're at. I also want to take this special opportunity to emphasize to you that on Halloween Day, which is Saturday, October 31st, there is a very special event that is happening at Fox River Congregational Church in Pewaukee, and it is for the 6th through 12th graders of any and all WCA churches. That's Wisconsin Congregational Association. So this will be any of you that are in grades 6 through 12, whether you're from OCC, North Shore, Wauwatosa, Heritage Madison, Beloit, Franklin, Faith Community in Franklin, or any other WCA churches, whether you've been to camp or not, whether you've been to Hosanna or not, whether you've been to previous rallies, retreats, 30-hour famines or not, you're especially invited to this event. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 6 at night. We can't do an overnight because of COVID-19 concerns. So it's just that 5 hours. We are planning to do the whole thing outside if weather permits, with social distancing and masks and all the rest. But Fox River's a great, amazing place. They've got a campfire area right next to a pond. They've got hiking trails in the woods. They got lots of space in their parking lot. We can do games, we can do groups, we can do discussions, and of course we can have a campfire too. So, going to be a terrific day. I really need to emphasize that you and your parents are going to want to watch your email inboxes in the next few days, because the coordinators of the event, Bo Wilkinson and Tom Penno, they are going to be sending out registration information, like the form to fill out in order to sign up and all that. So be watching both your social media, but especially your email inboxes. So then finally, before I sign off for today, again, just a reminder, consider again that last line of the Bible passage. If the master wills it. if the Master wills it and we're still alive, we'll do this or that. As I like to sometimes say, we're going to have to put this in pencil, not in ink, as in writing it on a paper calendar. When you write it in ink, you're pretty sure it's going to happen and it ain't going to change. Well, these days, just about everything in our lives is in pencil because the way the pandemic's going, things could change. But I wanted you to be well aware of what the plan is, at least for these next couple of Sundays and for Halloween Day out at Fox River Congregational Church. I thank you for listening, folks, and for tuning in here. I hope you're staying healthy and safe, having as good a week as possibly can be, and we'll hope to see you on Zoom this Sunday, 9 a.m. for MP3. Take it easy.